It was a crisp September evening in Napa Valley, California, the air filled with the scent of freshly pressed grapes and soft murmurs of the elite gathered for an exclusive art auction. Inside the grand hall, glittering chandeliers illuminated priceless masterpieces, each vying for the attention of patrons dressed in tailored suits and couture gowns. Amid the glamorous crowd stood Elena Ramirez, a 26-year-old art curator, her dark hair swept into a sleek chignon, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of purpose and curiosity. Elena had worked tirelessly to climb the ranks of the art world, leaving her modest upbringing far behind. Tonight wasn't just about the art, it was about making connections, aligning herself with the influential names that could open doors to a life she had long craved. And then, she saw him. Liam Whitmore stood near the gallery's centerpiece, a rare painting by a reclusive modernist. At 28, Liam exuded an effortless confidence, his tailored navy suit a subtle nod to wealth that needed no announcement. With his sharp jawline and magnetic presence, he commanded the room without trying. He wasn't just another patron, he was Liam Whitmore, heir to the Whitmore real estate empire and one of the most eligible bachelors in Napa Valley. Elena's breath hitched as their eyes met across the room. For a fleeting moment, the noise of the crowd dulled, and the two were locked in an unspoken connection. Liam's lips curved into a faint, intrigued smile, and Elena responded with a slight tilt of her head, her composure betraying none of the excitement coursing through her. Moments later, Liam approached. "I believe we share a fascination with this piece," he began, his voice rich and smooth. Elena turned toward him, her practiced poise never wavering. "More than fascination," she replied, her tone light but firm. "It's a reflection of turmoil and triumph, don't you think? The artist captures the fragility of resilience." Liam arched an eyebrow, clearly impressed. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, delving into art, travel, and philosophy. With every word exchanged, Liam found himself captivated not just by Elena's beauty but by her sharp intellect and passionate insights. For Elena, this was more than a chance meeting, it felt like destiny. Liam wasn't just charming, he embodied everything she had worked for, a symbol of the life she was determined to claim. As the evening wore on, the two slipped away from the auction's main hall, strolling through the moonlit gardens of the estate. Their laughter mingled with the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. To an outsider, it might have seemed like the beginning of a fairy tale romance. For Elena, however, it was more than that. She didn't just want Liam, she needed him. And in that moment, as he reached for her hand and held her gaze, a small voice inside her whispered that this was her chance to rewrite her story. She wouldn't let it slip away. Little did Liam know, the seemingly enchanting woman standing beside him carried a storm within her, a storm that would one day tear through his life and everything he held dear. The romance between Elena Ramirez and Liam Whitmore burned brightly in the early days, an intoxicating whirlwind of elegant gallery openings, lavish dinners, and weekends at his family's sprawling estate in Greenwood Estates, Sonoma County. To anyone watching, they seemed like the perfect couple, young, successful, and deeply in love. Yet beneath the polished surface of their relationship, cracks began to form, subtle at first, but unmistakable to those who knew Liam best. Elena's passion, once endearing, began to take on a darker hue. Her interest in Liam's life extended beyond curiosity, it became an obsession. She wanted to know everything, who he texted, where he went, and what he thought. At first, Liam brushed it off, mistaking her constant need for updates as a sign of affection. But over time, her questions grew more probing, her tone more insistent. The first significant red flag came during a quiet dinner at Liam's penthouse. Elena had casually mentioned noticing a female colleague's comment on his social media. "She seems a little too friendly," Elena said, her voice laced with an edge Liam hadn't heard before. When he laughed it off, assuring her it was nothing, her expression hardened. "It's not nothing," she snapped, her eyes narrowing. "If you care about us, you wouldn't let people like her think they have a chance." Liam dismissed the incident, chalking it up to insecurities she might have from past relationships. But her behavior only escalated. Elena began showing up unannounced at his office, bearing excuses that felt increasingly thin, lunch deliveries that he hadn't ordered or forgotten items that weren't his. Liam's co-workers started noticing, their amused glances turning into concerned whispers. The tension reached a boiling point when Liam introduced Elena to his family. The Whitmores were a pillar of Sonoma County society, known not just for their wealth but for their contributions to the community. Catherine Whitmore, Liam's mother, was a force of nature, elegant, shrewd, and fiercely protective of her family. From the moment she met Elena, Catherine's instincts flared. While polite, she found Elena's eagerness to please unnerving. Her questions about the family business felt invasive, her laughter too rehearsed. In private, Catherine confided in her daughter Anna, expressing her reservations. "There's something off about her," Catherine said, swirling her glass of wine thoughtfully. "She wants more than Liam. She wants to be part of the Whitmore name." Anna, Liam's younger sister and confidant, had her own misgivings. Elena's possessiveness was hard to ignore. At a family gathering, Anna caught Elena glaring at a distant cousin who had been chatting casually with Liam. The look in Elena's eyes was cold, almost territorial. "I don't trust her," Anna later told Liam. But he dismissed her concerns, unwilling to see the storm brewing before him. The tipping point came in March 2023 during a dinner at Liam's penthouse. Elena, increasingly paranoid, accused him of hiding things from her. Her voice rose as she listed imagined slights, her emotions unraveling before his eyes. When Liam tried to calm her, reminding her of his loyalty, she stormed into the living room and hurled a glass vase across the room, shattering it against the wall. The sound echoed ominously, a metaphor for their relationship's growing fragility. That night, Liam called Anna, his voice heavy with guilt and confusion. "I think I made a mistake," he admitted. Anna urged him to consider ending things, but Liam hesitated. Memories of their early days, the laughter, the shared dreams, still lingered. He wanted to believe it was just a rough patch, that Elena's behavior would settle if he showed her more patience. But Elena's obsession deepened. She began demanding access to his phone and emails under the guise of trust. When Liam resisted, she would alternate between tearful pleas and icy silences that stretched for days. "I'm doing this because I love you," she would say, her voice trembling with emotion. "Why can't you see that?" By April 2023, Liam was becoming a shadow of himself. Once confident and sociable, he grew withdrawn and hesitant. He cancelled plans with friends, offering vague excuses about being too busy. When he did socialize, Elena was always by his side, her arm linked possessively through his, her eyes scanning the room for perceived threats. The people who cared about Liam watched helplessly as he drifted further into Elena's control. Catherine, however, refused to remain silent. In one heated conversation over dinner, she confronted Liam directly. "This isn't love," she said, her voice firm but caring. "This is manipulation. If you don't set boundaries now, you'll lose more than your freedom, you'll lose yourself." For the first time, Liam truly listened. That night, he lay awake, replaying every argument, every uneasy glance from his family, every moment of doubt. He realized that the love he had once felt for Elena had been replaced by fear, a fear of her reactions, of her anger, of losing control over his own life. The decision to end the relationship began to take shape in his mind. But Liam also knew Elena well enough to understand that she wouldn't let go easily. The storm had been brewing for months, and now, as he prepared to face it, he had no idea just how destructive it would become. By the time spring unfolded in April 2023, Liam Whitmore knew he couldn't continue his relationship with Elena Ramirez. The warmth and passion he'd once felt for her had been replaced by a persistent dread, an invisible weight that bore down on his every decision. Yet, breaking up with Elena was a task he didn't take lightly. Her emotional volatility had grown unpredictable, and a part of him feared what she might do if he ended things. Still, the realization burned in his mind: he had to reclaim his life, no matter the cost. Liam chose a public place for the breakup, a quaint cafe in downtown San Francisco, one of their first date spots. He hoped the familiarity of the setting and the presence of other patrons would temper Elena's reaction. The warm April sun bathed the patio in golden light as Liam waited, his palms damp with anticipation. When Elena arrived, her smile was radiant, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing in Liam's chest. "Hey," she greeted, leaning in for a kiss. Liam turned his cheek, a subtle move that sent an immediate ripple of tension through her. Her smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of suspicion. As they sat down, Liam took a deep breath. "Elena," he began, his voice soft but steady, "I need to talk to you about us." Her expression froze, the light in her eyes dimming as if she could already sense the words forming in his mind. As Liam spoke, gently explaining that their relationship had become unhealthy and that they both needed space to heal, Elena's face shifted through a spectrum of emotions: disbelief, anger, and finally, devastation. "You don't mean this," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're just stressed." "I can help you, Liam. We can fix this." But when Liam shook his head, offering her a quiet apology, something inside Elena snapped. Her eyes darkened, and her voice rose, cutting through the cafe's quiet hum. "Fix this?" "Fix what, Liam? The lies your family has been feeding you? The way they've poisoned you against me?" Heads turned as her voice escalated into a shout, but Elena seemed oblivious to the stares. "You're making a mistake," she hissed, leaning across the table. "No one will ever love you the way I do. And you'll regret this. I promise you'll regret this." Liam stood, his heart pounding, and murmured, "This is why it has to end. Goodbye, Elena." Without looking back, he walked out of the cafe, leaving her sitting there, trembling with rage and disbelief. In the days following the breakup, Liam felt an unfamiliar lightness. He changed the locks to his penthouse, blocked Elena's number, and informed his office security to keep an eye out for her. For the first time in months, he reconnected with friends, smiled more, and began to feel like himself again. But beneath the relief was a persistent unease. He couldn't forget the look in Elena's eyes as he walked away, a cold, calculating fury. While Liam tried to rebuild his life, Elena's world unraveled. The life she had envisioned with Liam, a life of luxury, power, and belonging, had been ripped away. To Elena, this wasn't just a breakup, it was betrayal on a cosmic scale. For days, she shut herself in her Oakland apartment, oscillating between sobbing fits and furious tirades. She called Liam relentlessly, leaving messages that swung between desperate apologies and bitter accusations. But all she received in return was silence. When her attempts to contact Liam failed, Elena's grief transformed into something darker. In her mind, the blame for their breakup lay not with Liam but with his family, particularly Catherine Whitmore, whom she believed had orchestrated their separation. Elena's thoughts spiraled into obsession, and she began to stalk Liam, monitoring his every move. She parked outside his penthouse for hours, watching the comings and goings of his building. She followed him to restaurants and social events, seething at the sight of him laughing with friends, seemingly untouched by the loss of their relationship. Her obsession culminated in a twisted realization: if Liam's family was the obstacle, she would simply remove it. Over the next several weeks, Elena meticulously planned her revenge. She compiled notes on the Whitmore family's routines, mapped out the layout of Greenwood Estates, and purchased materials to execute her plan, a chilling collection of accelerants and incendiary devices. Her once organized apartment became a chaotic war room, its walls covered in photographs, notes, and diagrams connected by red string. The opportunity presented itself in June 2023, when Elena stumbled upon an announcement for the Whitmore family's annual summer celebration. Held at Greenwood Estates, the event was a cornerstone of the family's legacy, bringing together friends, relatives, and community leaders for a night of elegance and tradition. Elena saw it as the perfect stage for her final act. Using a fake name and forged references, she secured a position with the catering company hired for the event. On the day of the party, she arrived early, blending seamlessly with the staff as they set up the estate. Beneath her calm exterior, Elena's mind raced with anticipation. She discreetly placed small containers of accelerants in strategic locations throughout the house, behind curtains, under furniture, and near exits. As the evening unfolded, the Whitmore family and their guests mingled in the opulent estate, unaware of the danger lurking among them. Elena moved through the crowd, her gaze cold and calculating as she followed Liam's every move. To anyone watching, she was just another server, her presence unremarkable. But in her mind, she was preparing to dismantle the world that had rejected her. When the moment arrived, Elena slipped away to ignite the first blaze. The fire would soon engulf Greenwood Estates, transforming the Whitmore family's legacy into ashes, and sealing Elena's descent into infamy. The summer evening at Greenwood Estates began like every other Whitmore family gathering. The estate glowed under the warm twilight, the meticulously manicured gardens dotted with guests enjoying champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Inside the grand mansion, the sound of classical music mingled with laughter and the gentle clinking of glasses. For the Whitmores, it was an annual tradition celebrating their family's legacy and contributions to the community. But as the clock struck 9:30 p.m., what began as a night of joy transformed into an unimaginable nightmare. Unbeknownst to the guests, Elena Ramirez had already set her plan into motion. Dressed in her catering uniform, she moved unnoticed through the mansion, lighting the carefully placed incendiary devices. The first flames erupted in the basement, spreading rapidly to the east wing. By the time the faint scent of smoke reached the main party hall, it was already too late. At first, the guests assumed the smell was from an outdoor fire pit. But within minutes, thick smoke began seeping through the walls, and the alarmed cries of staff quickly escalated into panic. Fire! Everyone needs to get out, someone shouted, their voice breaking through the rising chaos. Liam Whitmore was among the first to react. As guests rushed for the exits, he instinctively sought out his mother Catherine and sister Anna, but in the confusion, he lost sight of them. The mansion's ornate hallways, once a symbol of the family's wealth, became a labyrinth of smoke and flames. Liam, coughing and disoriented, struggled to guide others toward safety, his heart pounding with the realization that his family might still be trapped inside. Outside, the scene was no less chaotic. Guests staggered onto the lawn, their faces streaked with soot and terror. Children clung to their parents, crying, while first responders arrived, their sirens piercing the night. Firefighters stormed the burning mansion, battling both the inferno and the clock. Yet, for all their efforts, the flames spread with unnatural speed, fueled by the accelerants Elena had meticulously placed. In the chaos, Catherine Whitmore emerged as an unlikely hero. Despite her own injuries from the smoke and falling debris, she refused to leave until she was certain everyone she could save had made it out. Her selflessness, however, came at a cost. Catherine was pulled from the wreckage by firefighters just as the eastern wing collapsed, suffering severe burns and a fractured leg. As the fire raged on, Elena slipped away unnoticed. Discarding her catering uniform in the bushes, she walked calmly to her car parked down a side road. The orange glow of the flames reflected in her rearview mirror as she drove off into the night. To her, this wasn't just an act of revenge, it was justice. In her mind, she had dismantled the family that had come between her and Liam, proving her love in the most twisted way possible. By dawn, Greenwood Estates was unrecognizable. The once magnificent mansion now stood as a charred skeleton, its blackened frame silhouetted against the pale morning sky. Smoke still rose from the ruins, and the estate's pristine gardens were trampled and waterlogged from the firefighters' efforts. The toll was devastating. While most guests escaped with minor injuries, 3 lives were lost in the inferno. Among the deceased was a 7-year-old family friend who had been playing hide-and-seek when the fire broke out, and a longtime Whitmore employee who had succumbed to smoke inhalation. For Liam, the loss was deeply personal. While his mother fought for her life in the hospital, his family's legacy, both literal and symbolic, lay in ruins. Grief and guilt consumed him as he replayed every interaction with Elena, realizing too late the danger she posed. He hadn't just lost his family home, he had unwittingly allowed someone to infiltrate his life and destroy everything he held dear. The investigation began immediately. The Sonoma County Fire Department, assisted by arson specialists, quickly determined that the fire was no accident. Traces of accelerants were found in multiple locations, all strategically placed to maximize destruction. The conclusion was clear: this was a carefully planned act of arson. Detective Diana Preston, a seasoned investigator with the Sonoma County Police Department, took charge of the case. Her first task was to interview survivors and staff, piecing together the chaotic events of the evening. It didn't take long for discrepancies to surface. A member of the catering team reported that one of their uniforms was missing, and that a woman matching Elena's description had joined the staff at the last minute under suspicious circumstances. The break in the case came when forensic analysts found security footage from a hidden camera in one of the estate's private hallways. The footage showed Elena moving through the house shortly before the fire began, her movements deliberate and methodical. When shown the footage, Liam's heart sank. "That's her," he confirmed, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's Elena." A search of Elena's apartment in Oakland yielded further damning evidence. The walls were plastered with photos of Liam and his family, detailed maps of Greenwood estates, and journal entries chronicling her obsession. One chilling entry read, "If they won't let us be together, I'll make sure they can never tear us apart again." With Elena identified as the prime suspect, a nationwide manhunt began. Her car was found abandoned near a bus station in Flagstaff, Arizona, suggesting she had fled the state. Over the next several months, sightings of Elena were reported across the country, but she always managed to stay one step ahead. The breakthrough came in November 2023, when a motel clerk in Flagstaff recognized Elena from a wanted poster. Local authorities apprehended her without incident, finding her in possession of multiple fake IDs and a burner phone. In her room, they discovered a journal detailing her actions and the fire at Greenwood Estates. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Elena showed no remorse during her arrest. Her only words to the officers were, "I did it for love." As Elena was transported back to California to face justice, the Whitmore family began the long process of rebuilding, not just their estate, but their lives shattered by her obsession. For Liam, the road to recovery was steep, but one thing was certain: the storm Elena had unleashed would haunt him forever. The trial of Elena Ramirez began in April 2024, drawing nationwide attention as the horrific details of her crimes unfolded. The once respected art curator now stood accused of arson, 3 counts of murder, and numerous charges of attempted murder. Prosecutors painted a chilling portrait of a woman consumed by obsession, whose love had curdled into an uncontrollable desire for revenge. For the Whitmore family, every day in court was a painful reminder of the devastation she had wrought. The prosecution's evidence was damning: the security footage, the accelerants traced back to Elena's purchases, and the detailed plans found in her Oakland apartment all pointed to her guilt. Witnesses testified to her erratic behavior in the months leading up to the fire, while Liam Whitmore recounted his turbulent relationship with Elena and the red flags he had failed to recognize. His voice trembled as he described the moment he realized she had planned everything. "She wasn't just trying to hurt me," he said, his gaze fixed on the courtroom floor. "She wanted to destroy everything I loved." Elena's defense attorney attempted to argue diminished capacity, claiming her mental health struggles clouded her judgment. However, the jury was unmoved. The evidence showed meticulous planning and execution, leaving little room for doubt. After weeks of testimony, it took the jury just 2 days to deliberate. Elena was found guilty on all counts. At her sentencing, the judge did not mince words. "Your actions were deliberate, calculated, and cruel," she said, her tone heavy with condemnation. "You turned your obsession into a weapon and caused irreparable harm to a family and a community." Elena was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole, along with an additional 120 years for attempted murder and related charges. Despite the verdict, Elena showed no remorse. As she was led away in shackles, she turned to Liam, her expression eerily calm. "You'll remember me forever," she said, her words echoing through the courtroom like a haunting promise. For the Whitmore family, the end of the trial marked the beginning of their journey to rebuild. Catherine Whitmore, hailed as a hero for her selfless actions during the fire, faced a long recovery from her injuries. Yet, her resilience became a source of strength for her family. "We lost so much," Catherine said in a rare interview. "But we didn't lose each other. That's what matters." Liam Whitmore, once the confident heir to a powerful legacy, emerged from the ordeal forever changed. He sought therapy to process his trauma, vowing to honor the lives lost by using his experience to raise awareness about emotional abuse and toxic relationships. "If I'd recognized the warning signs earlier," he admitted, "maybe things could have ended differently. But now, I want to make sure no one else has to go through what we did." The Whitmore estate, once the pride of Sonoma County, remained a charred ruin. Yet, rather than rebuild the mansion, the family announced plans to convert the property into a memorial garden dedicated to the victims of the fire. "We want this to be a place of healing," Catherine explained. "A reminder of the importance of love, community, and the strength to overcome even the darkest of times." The story of Elena Ramirez and the Whitmore family is one of obsession, loss, and resilience. It serves as a stark reminder of how unchecked emotions can spiral into destruction and the importance of recognizing red flags in relationships. Elena's obsession blinded her to reality, turning her love into a force of devastation that forever altered the lives of those around her. But this story also highlights the strength of those who survive and rebuild. The Whitmores remind us that even in the face of unimaginable loss, healing is possible with the support of family, community, and the courage to move forward. What do you think about Elena's actions? Were there moments where intervention could have prevented the tragedy? Have you ever encountered red flags in a relationship that made you question someone's behavior? What lessons do you take away from this story about the importance of recognizing and addressing unhealthy relationships? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your insights and personal experiences. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping stories like this one.